Hey guys, it's Jemma aka Aussie Bookworm, and today I'm going to be doing my review of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Sorry if I'm not. Okay, so I'm really excited to be doing this review because when some of the contributors of Literary Gladiators chucked their hats in the ring as to what book that we would be reading and reviewing, this was actually my recommendation. So yeah, that's an important player in this review. The reason I recommended that book was I was trying to pick a book that I thought would appeal to quite a variety of people. I don't tend to read a lot of classics. Actually, I never read classics, but even like ones that can be considered classics or books that are kind of arty, just because I get bored real easy and I don't tend to appreciate the artiness as much as some do. So anyway, this had been on my to read list because it sounded awesome. And yeah, I thought it might appeal to other people who were more interested in kind of like literature. So anyway, it got chosen and we read it. I bought and listened to it on Audible, not in any way sponsored. And I think I started listening to it in like, I don't know, what is it now? Like 27th of March. Probably took me nearly 2 months to listen to it. The first, so on Audible, it's actually split into 2 halves. And I did not realize this, or maybe I realized and I've forgotten. But I was listening to the first part on my commute to work, and I feel like I got through the first part in maybe, like a week, maybe a little over a week, because I have a pretty long commute. And anyway, maybe it was a little bit longer than that. Anyway, I was really enjoying it. I loved the first part. If you don't know what this book is about, maybe watch somebody else's video first. Psych, no, actually. So this book is about Addie LaRue, who's like maybe in the late 1600s or early 1700s. She is kind of forced to marry a man, and she really don't want to relate. And so she, I don't want to give it away. She ends up making a deal with the devil. This happens like in the first chapter. She doesn't know he's a devil. He's not the devil, but essentially you get what I'm saying. She makes this deal that makes her immortal, but no one can remember her. So like as soon as someone kind of walks away or goes through a door, they'll forget about her. So she's immortal, but she's never remembered, which is actually pretty tough. I kind of tried to work out how I would get my way around this, and I decided I wouldn't want to be immortal. Well, still undecided, but it's pretty hard. Anyway, so then the story like kind of flips back between modern day, I think it's like 2019, to all throughout her life, and all the different events. And it's written so beautifully. Oh my goodness. It's majestic the way this book is written. It's fine art, it's poetry, it's gorgeous. And it's a great story. Anyway, we get to the end of part 1, which I do not realize is the end of part 1. And it kind of has a nice conclusion. Like, you don't get everything wrapped up, but you kind of, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's nice. She found a happiness. And then it's like, this is the end of Audible part 1. Please download and listen to part 2. And I remember like hearing that, and when I got home, I looked to see how long part 2 was, and it was longer than part 1. And anyway, that really messed with my psyche, me thinking that I was finished, and I was less than halfway, and it made it much harder for me to finish the book. So I feel like I said it took me maybe like a week to 10 days to listen to that first half, and it took like 6 weeks for me to listen to the second part. The story was still lovely. I did feel like there was a lot of unnecessary bits. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone's seen the new Elvis movie, But the beginning was great, the end was great. The middle was just kind of unnecessary and way too long. And that's how I felt about this book. Like, it was beautiful, but it kind of got to the point where I'm like, oh, just shut up. And if I'd been reading this as a book, I would definitely have been like, just skipping those parts. But because it was an audio book, I couldn't. And my brain is just like, I'm bored. I need action. Anyway. So yeah. I kept taking breaks. I've been listening to like a true crime podcast. And yeah, anyway, the deal was that these would be ready for the 31st of March. So it's like 9 o'clock here in Australia, and I'm filming this video even though I said I would do it on the weekend. I'm sorry. And yeah, so I made myself finish it. Essentially, it's last week. I made myself listen to it every single day, twice a day on my commute. Which sounds like it's a really bad book, but it's not. It was a really beautiful book. It was, like I said, it was so beautifully written. It was almost poetic. The storyline was great. It was deep. It had characters that were multi-dimensional. It had LGBTQIA plus characters. It had non-human characters. It had like messy people who cared, and I feel like the way that the author wrote the characters understands humanity and love. And so yeah, I really liked it. I want to say I loved it, but just because that middle bit, and I think like how my brain perceived and kind of had to force myself to finish it, did like take away part of it for me. I ended up giving this book 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads, and I feel like if maybe I left some time between when I reviewed it, I would give it higher, because I've definitely given other books that were way worse written higher or to the same standard. The way I could like kind of liken it to another book is The Name of the Wind, or even like The Witches of Elianan, which there are 6 books and they're super long, and I did listen to them all. I liked them better, I think, because they had more action. But like that's kind of the similar style, in that it's so beautifully written and it has like this amazing world that's developed. My brain just can't sit through that. It's just like, no. So yeah. Thanks for watching. Go read it. Maybe. Maybe that's my recommendation. Actually, I have to say, the person who reads it, narrator, that's the word, was amazing. Like, so beautifully narrated. Well done. But if I was recommending you read this book, I would recommend you read the book so you can just skip the boring parts. Bye.